What we need is not more medication, but more education, because the best prescription is knowledge. This is Exposé coming to you live from Lagos, Nigeria, every Monday on Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook simultaneously. I'm your regular host, Tony Akinyemi. Don't forget, what we need is not more medication, but more education, because the best prescription is knowledge. Hello and welcome to Exposé with Tony Akinyemi this beautiful Monday evening once again. I'm honored to always be your regular host. My name is Tony Akinyemi, and this program is brought to you courtesy TSF, the Shepherd's Flock International Church. Last week we started this season on your water and your health, and we looked at least 7 important roles that water can play in our lives towards our health. And we concluded by saying that you can live for 40 days without food and may not necessarily cause serious health damage in your body, but you can only live for not more than 4 days without water. If you go beyond that, you can get dehydrated and lay the foundation for disease in your body. And you can live for approximately only 4 minutes without oxygen. And somebody jocularly said, you can only live for 4 seconds without hope. All right. So today we are going to take off from there. Again, let me remind you that step number 6 in our 21-step holistic health plan in our institute, the Rafa Institute of Healthy Living, is make water your best drink, or make water your best beverage. Now let's continue with water and our health. Now, over the centuries, water has been used, you see, in many cultures in its 3 physical states for therapy. Water is used for therapy in its 3 physical states. Water can exist in 3 physical states. It can exist in the solid state, in the form of ice pack or ice block, okay? In that solid state, water can be used as a remedy in many ways. Maybe for a bleeding nose, for example. If somebody is having a nosebleed, they can just put an ice pack, a pack with ice cubes inside, and place it on the nostrils to stop the nosebleed. Of course, ice packs are also applied in many other ways in therapeutic applications, in attending to a number of issues in our health. In its liquid state, either hot or cold water, it's also used, for various applications. For example, warm water can be used in sitz baths, for hemorrhoids, for example, for anal fistula, for episiotomy wounds after childbirth. That is water in its liquid state, either hot or cold. Of course, we also drink water, either cold water or water at room temperature, to quench thirst. Then in its gaseous state, water is also used in various other ways for health applications. In saunas, in steam treatments, warm water has a way of increasing blood flow to various organs in the body. And this in turn brings a rich supply of oxygen and other nutrients that can aid the healing process wherever this hot water is applied, particularly in steam saunas. All right. Again, water can be used, to wash our hands, either before our meals by way of, practicing hygiene, and this has been going on for ages. Hand washing as a form of hygiene is an age-long practice in virtually every culture. Even the Holy Bible prescribes it, that people should wash their hands, okay, so as to clean the hands from germs and infectious agents and toxins and dirts, that if we don't wash them off and we use them to pick something to eat, it can actually go into our system and cause disease. Now, well, shall I say thank goodness? Or maybe not. We've had some health crises, on regional basis and even on a global basis in recent times that have reminded us again of the age-long practice of hand washing. For example, a couple of years ago, we had the Ebola viral disease, that broke out in West Africa. Suddenly, it brought to the fore one more time the need for hand washing, regular hand washing. And then in late 2019 stroke, early 2020, when the global pandemic, the COVID-19 global pandemic broke out, again, we were reminded of our need for regular hand washing. Again, you see, these pandemics, this crisis actually compelled hand washing in many institutions and homes all over the world one more time. So this is something we need to be practicing, not necessarily when there is an outbreak of infectious diseases, but as a regular health practice, wellness practice. Okay. Now let's look at our blood pressure again as it relates to water. Now there is something that is called orthostatic hypotension. Orthostatic hypotension. Now hypotension means low blood pressure, and hypertension means high blood pressure. So hypotension, low blood pressure, then orthostatic hypotension. That is the kind of low blood pressure that occurs when you were sitting maybe for a prolonged period of time, and then you stood up suddenly in an upright position, and then the blood pressure goes down, zoom, like that. That is orthostatic hypotension. You changed your position, your posture. Some people call it postural hypotension. Okay, you were sitting and then you stood up in an upright position and your blood pressure just dipped, just went low, and then you feel dizzy momentarily. And it took a few seconds before you gained your stability again. That is low blood pressure when you stood up into the upright position. Now, it's a common complication of a failure of the autonomic nervous system. Let me give a little background about the nervous system. Now, we all have the nervous system as one of the many systems in our body. And the aspects of the nervous system that many people are familiar with is the central nervous system, which is made up of the brain and the spinal cord, passing through our backbone. That's the core of the nervous system, and that's called the central nervous system. And then there are nerves that branch off the spinal cord and are distributed like electrical wires to all the different parts of the body, to our hands, to our legs, to everywhere. Those are called the peripheral nervous system. So you have the central one, you have the peripheral one. Now, the nervous system operates also somewhat like an airplane. When a pilot is flying an airplane, the pilot can choose to be in control of the airplane directly, physically, or the pilot can switch into what we call autopilot mode, where the pilot can actually get up from the cockpit and walk, into the main cabin of the aircraft and walk around where the plane is flying on autopilot, so to speak. The nervous system can also be either under human control or under autopilot. Now, that aspect of the nervous system is referred to as the autonomic nervous system. The autonomic nervous system. Now, that autonomic nervous system has two parts again. One is called the, sympathetic nervous system, and the other one is called the parasympathetic nervous system. So you have the sympathetic nervous system, the parasympathetic nervous system. These are usually on autopilot. Now, the sympathetic nervous system is the one that you can liken to the accelerator of a car. When you press the pedal to accelerate, your vehicle does boom, and then it moves because you are pressing the accelerator or the speed pedal. That's the sympathetic nervous system. Then the parasympathetic is the one that balances things out. that is like the brakes. When it's going too much or too fast, you want to slow it down, okay? That is the parasympathetic nervous system. So there is the accelerator brake balance in the autonomic nervous system, which is the autopilot mechanism in our nervous system. Controls happening within the nervous system that is not directly under our conscious control, but under our, shall I say, subconscious control now. So that part of the nervous system does a number of things that you may not be aware of or conscious of, but it just does it. For example, when you eat a meal, you don't have to think about, oh, okay, let's start digesting this food now. You don't think of it. Your autonomic nervous system will switch on the process to commence digestion without you thinking about it. That's on autopilot, all right? Okay, so now, when that autonomic nervous system begins to malfunction, that is when people begin to develop orthostatic hypotension. Of course, there are other factors that can also cause orthostatic hypotension. Now, a team of American and German researchers reported that drinking water, when you drink water and you get properly hydrated, that it is an effective way of raising your blood pressure if you are an individual suffering from orthostatic hypotension that is brought on by autonomic nervous system failure. That's where I'm trying to link the issue of hydration with your autonomic nervous system and your blood pressure, okay? Now, Jordan Jens and his colleagues actually wrote an article, a publication in The Lancet, which is a medical journal, one of the top 3 medical journals in the world. And they titled it, A Potent Pressure Response Elicited by Drinking Water. A potent pressure response elicited by drinking water. It was published in The Lancet, volume 353 on February 27, 1999. And you can find that on page 723, all right, in The Lancet. They said drinking water is an effective way of raising the blood pressure in individuals suffering from orthostatic hypotension brought on by autonomic nervous system. So you see, water meets our most basic health needs. Water is a basic need, for cellular health. Our cells contain water and they are surrounded by water. We have intracellular water, extracellular water. Now, when we are dehydrated, our cell membranes become less permeable, obstructing the flow of hormones and nutrients into our cells and preventing waste products such as oxidants that cause cellular damage from flowing out of our cells. Now imagine for a moment what happens, to a beautiful rose bush under extreme drought conditions. It withers. It begins to fade and eventually dies. I have a rose plant in my compound that I have to intentionally water it regularly, particularly during the dry seasons of the year in Nigeria. I water them daily because I don't want my rose plant to die because of the beautiful white rose that it brings out and blooms from time to time, okay? Now, water does more than act as, the various simple things that we use them for. They actually support life. Again, I remember there was a particular time, very recently, I had some tomatoes that I planted in pots in my compound. I had some other plants that I planted, some vegetables, in pots. And I think we traveled from Lagos State to Oyo State for a few days. And then we came back and I was not home. Nobody was home to water the plants. And it was during the dry season. I think it was in the month of February 2024, if I'm not mistaken. The rains had not started coming, particularly in Lagos where I live. And by the time we came back, I saw all my vegetables, all my tomatoes, everything, they were all wilted and they were like this. I thought they were dead. I was sad. I said, oh, all these plants are gone. As soon as I alighted from the car, as we drove into our premises, I alighted from the car, I quickly went to carry my watering bucket and I began to water all of them. I watered all of them, and then I went in. When we woke up the next morning and I came to inspect my plants, they were all standing erect and robust, looking full and fresh. I said, wow, so they are not dead. they withered, they were fading, and they would have eventually died if I didn't water them. That's the power of watering. See, and water does more than act as a solvent for nutrients and oxidants. It also generates energy. It's necessary for the metabolic breakdown of adenosine triphosphate, ATP, which is another source of cellular energy. Water also acts as a bonding adhesive in our cell structure. And on a larger scale, water is essential for our digestive system to break down and digest food. And water increases the efficiency of red blood cells in collecting oxygen from our lungs. Don't go away. I'm going to come back and continue to share beautiful things about water to make you drink more and more clean water, purified water, alkaline water, structured water, mineral water. I'll be back shortly. Hello and welcome back. I'm still your host. Tony Akinyemi is my name on Exposé with Tony Akinyemi. This beautiful Monday evening, 8 p.m. West African time. Let me take a sip of my water before I continue with the second half of today's episode. I hope you have your own water bottle by your side. Let's keep drinking water. Water is very helpful. Water is very good. Now, let me share a strange theory, what I call a strange theory about water, as propounded by one medical doctor by the name of Dr. B, the popular short name that most people who know him have given to him is Dr. B, because his surname is a little bit, very long and difficult to pronounce by many cultures, okay? I think he's an Asian doctor, originally from Asia. I'm not very sure. I just suspected from the length and the type of, from his surname, by the way. Now, many people find it difficult to pronounce the name, including me. So it's easier to just call him Dr. B. But the full name is Dr. F. Batmanghelidj. Dr. F. Batmanghelidj, a medical doctor, an MD. He propounded a theory about water which many people regard as a strange theory. But this doctor holds on strongly to the view that, you see, water is involved in many, many disease conditions, or maybe I should say dehydration, a lack of adequate amount of water in the human body could be at the root of many of the problems, health problems that people face. So Dr. B labeled the various states of diseases as mere stages of dehydration. That's why it's called a strange theory. So it's like if you have asthma, that is like you are reaching, let's say, stage 7 of dehydration. If you have headache, maybe that is stage 4 of dehydration. If you have insomnia, maybe that is stage 5 of dehydration. So every disease is seen by Dr. B as a stage of dehydration. He describes various states of diseases as stages of dehydration. He believed that you can't rely on feeling thirsty before you drink water. He says you have to take preemptive action and actually prevent dehydration before you begin to feel thirsty. Dr. B believes that by the time you have a dry mouth, you are already highly dehydrated, and it's almost too late. Of course, not too late to bounce back, not too late to recover, but it's like you waited too late to drink water. Now, according to Dr. B, his theory propounds that when you don't drink enough water to get rid of toxic waste buildup in your system, you are going to eventually, or down the road, manifest dehydration. And that dehydration is going to express itself in the form of various diseases depending on the stage of dehydration. It can manifest in the form of allergies, for example, according to Dr. B, or it can manifest in the form of asthma, or indeed many other disease conditions. Okay, so according to his theory, he says there are 4 medical mistakes, or 4 health mistakes, or false assumptions that people routinely make regarding water. And these are the 4, what he called 4 medical mistakes, or 4 health mistakes, or 4 false assumptions that people normally make regarding water. And they make this mistake routinely. He says mistake number 1 is that we treat dry mouth as the only sign of dehydration. He says that's a medical error. He claims that the fact is that there are many signals of dehydration besides a dry mouth. He believes that by the time your dehydration leads to dry mouth, it has gone too far. You shouldn't have allowed it to go that far. The second medical mistake that he says is that we assume that water has no actual chemical properties. In fact, according to him, nothing you take orally by mouth can even hope to be utilized by your body without water. Water is needed for your body to utilize anything you ingest, anything you eat needs water for your body to process it, assimilate it, and utilize it. So number 3 mistake that he identifies is that we presume our body is able to regulate water intake throughout our lifespan. We just believe that from age 0, when we are born, till when we die, the human body is able to regulate water intake throughout our lifespan. He says no, that in reality, older people tend to become dehydrated more quickly without realizing it. Older people, they tend to become more dehydrated more quickly without realizing it. And the 4th mistake that he mentioned is that people often assume any fluid can replace water. I think I alluded to that last week. People assume that any fluid, is it not just to hydrate? Let me take coffee, let me take soft drink, let me take beer, let me take that. And people think once it is a liquid, it's going to help to hydrate the body. He said that is patently false. Soft drinks, caffeinated coffee, lager beer, and even tea can make disastrous substitutes for water. Alcohol and caffeine in particular dehydrate our body. I think I mentioned that last week, but it bears repeating today. These substances, alcohol and caffeine, actually flush more water out of our body than they are allowed to enter. I remember when I was in both primary and secondary schools, primary school, high school, in those days, when we were young, we used to see in our neighborhood where we lived so many, beer parlors. We called them in those days beer parlors. These days, people call them joints, all kinds of names now, where, people go after work in the evening, particularly men. Once they close from work, most of them will just go to the beer parlors and they will sit, because in West Africa, our weather is 12 months summer. You can sit outdoors 12 months of the year, except when it's raining, okay? The weather is so good. We have 12 months summer. We only have 6 months of dry summer and 6 months of wet summer. So we call them raining season and dry season. But all summer, 12 months in West Africa. So people go out socializing in the evening after work. They go to their beer parlors and they are drinking all kinds of lager beer, different brands. And I observed in those days when I was young that every beer parlor always built a small cubicle outside where these people who are drinking beer would always be going to urinate. And you see them almost on an hourly basis. They get up and they are going there to urinate, and it's volumes and volumes of urine that they are urinating out there. So as they are drinking the beer, it's sending them to the bathroom to urinate. As they are drinking the beer, it's sending them to the bathroom to urinate. So these drinks, alcoholic beverages, actually flush more water out of the body than the amount that accompanies the beer that you are drinking. So beer will actually dehydrate you. And similarly, caffeine as well also dehydrates. And when a person is dehydrated, there are signs for you to know that you're probably dehydrated. Now, according to Dr. B again, Dr. Batman-Gelich, the signs, the symptoms, and the diseases that can be caused by dehydration can include any of the following. Number one, he believes that when you are dehydrated, you can start feeling fatigued, tiredness. You can have dark-colored urine. Your urine becomes, the color is no longer light. It becomes very, very deeply dark-colored. It could be deeply yellowish, deeply red, deeply something, brownish, turning towards chocolate color. All right. Of course, when your urine is like chocolate color, there could be a liver problem involved there. All right. Or gallbladder problem. Now, another sign of dehydration is extreme thirst. When you're feeling so thirsty, then you could be dehydrated. Then there could be irritability and anxiety, according to Dr. B. Then there is what is known as agoraphobia. That is the fear of crowds and public places. Could be a sign of dehydration. Depression, according to Dr. B, can be a sign of dehydration. Food cravings can be a sign of dehydration. Morning sickness during pregnancy can be a sign of dehydration. Allergies and asthma, and I have witnessed this firsthand. I've seen situations where people are having something that looks like an asthma attack, and all we just did for the person was to put some, Celtic sea salt or Himalayan pink salt in water, dissolve a little bit of salt in water, and give it to them to drink. And, the electrolytes in the water helps the body to absorb the water quickly as they drink it. And in a few minutes, the asthma attack will just subside, So it makes me to agree with Dr. B that dehydration can actually serve as a trigger for an asthma attack. All right? Dr. B also believes that hypertension, diabetes, immune diseases, peptic ulcers can all be signs of dehydration. I called it a strange theory because somebody might be wondering, you mean all these problems are just caused by dehydration? Maybe that is a little bit simplistic. Maybe what I would say is that dehydration is a contributing factor. Maybe not the only cause, and maybe not the major cause, but maybe an aggravating cause, an aggravating factor. So dehydration could be a contributing cause or an aggravating factor for these diseases. That's my own take. But Dr. B believes that all these conditions, including migraines, and I agree with that, seriously, headaches and migraines could be as a result of dehydration. It could be that dehydration could be the primary cause of the migraine or headache, or it could be a contributing cause to the migraine and headache. All right. Then rheumatoid arthritis, angina pectoris, that is pain emanating from the heart, and then fibromyalgia, which is a kind of generalized pain all over the body. You can't explain precisely where, just pain all over the body, fibromyalgia. He believes that even cancer has, dehydration as a contributing cause. So dehydration is dangerous. That's the bottom line. Whether you agree with Dr. B or not, one thing all of us agree is that dehydration is not good. Now, water is the one element that we need most and suspect the least in matters of disease. And when it comes to healing and health, many people don't even look in the direction of water as a significant factor, as a critical factor. Now, dehydration can result in all kinds of health problems, ranging from tension headaches to more serious afflictions. And according to experts, dehydration can be a factor in backaches, in mental health, in kidney stones, in asthma attacks and many, many other conditions. So if you have ever experienced tension headache, okay, you know how it feels. Now, if you ever experience it again, I encourage you, the first thing to do is not to go and look for paracetamol or Tylenol or aspirin or any of such things. Just drink enough water, take a break, and maybe take a nap. It may just disappear. It could be as simple as that. When you feel tension headache, just drink water, take a break, take a nap, and then 1 or 2 hours later, see whether it is still there. And if it is still there, look at the intensity compared to before you drank the water and took the nap. Okay? Now, do you know that the overuse of paracetamol to address simple aches and pains, people don't know that when you use these analgesics, these pain relievers, for longer than 5 to 7 days, you're actually putting your kidneys at risk. So I encourage you to please stop self-medication forthwith. Your doctor will always advise you for how many days you're supposed to take those drugs, those medications, particularly paracetamol, Tylenol, or what have you. When you take them longer than the number of days that your doctor prescribes, you could be putting your kidneys in jeopardy. Some people have suffered kidney impairment simply by the overuse of paracetamol. I know many people in Nigeria in the past who will say, after a hard day's work, once I just take 2 tablets of paracetamol, I'm cool, I'm good to go. I can sleep and I won't feel all the joint aches and all the muscle pains that I feel out of a hard day's work. No, sir, no, ma, please, in the interest of your kidneys, stop taking those analgesics, except when prescribed by your doctor. And your doctor, because he or she is well trained, is not going to give you those drugs more than the number of days that are safe for you. Okay? Taking aspirin or paracetamol when you have headache is tantamount to trying to cut off the electrical wire in your car so that the red light that is showing on your dashboard may go off. That's self-deception. These painkillers don't address the root cause of the pain. They just numb the pain so you don't feel discomfort. That's all. But what is causing the pain is still there, and you have to deal with it. All right? So dehydration, sleep deprivation, and stress are the top 3 root causes of many health problems. I go over them again. Dehydration, not drinking adequate amount of water, sleep deprivation, not sleeping enough, and stress. These 3, they are the triplets that could be at the root cause of many health problems. Anybody who is able to address these 3 properly, you are not dehydrated, you are not sleep deprived, and you are not stressed, then many health conditions will flee from you. You see, hospitals will almost always set a drip for a patient to rehydrate their body and sedate them to sleep as soon as they get admitted into the hospital, and they prevent visitors from coming to disturb them. Those 3 problems are what are being addressed. When a person gets admitted in the hospital and they set up a drip to hydrate the person, they shut out all visitors, they allow him to sleep and rest, they are dealing with dehydration, they are dealing with sleep deprivation, and they are dealing with stress. And once they address those 3, quite often, after 2 or 3 days of going through those 3, you see your body starts bouncing back, and then you are discharged with a handsome bill to go and settle in the bank. They say your bill is 350,000 naira, or your bill is 800,000 naira. And you say, what? Just water that you pass into my body? They gave you a bed. They helped you to shut out visitors that are disturbing and stressing you. They make sure you switched off your phone so that your clients and customers will not disturb you. So you can get properly hydrated, you can get proper rest in sleep, and detonate the stress in your life, and then you get well. So without enough water in our body, our chemical, biological, and mechanical functions will suffer. I think this is how far we can go today. There's a lot to talk about water and our health. And when I come your way next week, again, by the special grace of God, on the same platform, on Facebook and YouTube, I will continue with the subject of dehydration in this series on water and your health. And we'll be looking at what causes dehydration. Why do people get dehydrated? We have looked at the signs and the symptoms of dehydration and what dehydration can lead to by way of ill health. But now we're going to be asking the question next week, why do people get dehydrated and how do we prevent dehydration? Thank you for your time with me today. I pray for you again that this week will be terrific, will be wonderful, will be filled with testimonies and breakthroughs to the glory of God. I love you. Bye-bye.